Hello students, this is Dr. Ranjini, Assistant Professor in Biotechnology. Today in this session we learn about SCP, single cell protein and mycoprotein. The dried cells of microorganisms like algae, bacteria, actinomycetes, and fungi are used as food or feed. These are used as food or feed, are collectively known as microbial proteins. Since the ancient times, a number of microorganisms have been used as a part of diet. Fermented yeast. So in this, Saccharomyces cerevisiae was recovered as leavening agent for bread. So it was as early as 2500 BC. Fermented milk and cheese produced by lactic acid bacteria, that is lactobacillus and streptococcus, was used by Egyptians and Greeks during 50 to 100 BC. Cultured dairy products contain about 10 to the power of 8 to 10 lactic acid bacteria per gram of the product. So like this, microorganisms, dried cells of microorganisms are used as food or feed. So these are called the microbial protein. In addition to that, in 16th century, spirulina, blue-green algae, was consumed as a major source of protein. The term the microbial protein was replaced by the new term single cell protein. Microbial, initially it was called as single cell microbial protein. Later it was called as the single cell protein. So in short form it will be represented as SCP. During the first international conference on microbial protein, held at MIT, Cambridge, USA in 1967. So it was named as the microbial protein was named as single cell protein. The main criteria for coining this term was the single celled habit of microorganisms, which were used as food and feed. So that was the only reason why they were termed as single cell protein. Since 1920s, filamentous fungi have been used for the production of protein. For such fungi, the term fungal protein has been used by many scientists. Recently, the term mycoprotein has been introduced by the UK scientist Ranks Doggle. Ranks Doggle introduced the term mycoprotein. So these single cell proteins, as the name suggests, they are rich in protein. The importance of mass production of microorganism as a direct source of microbial protein was realized during First World War. Consequently, the in Germany, baker's yeast was produced in an aerated molasses media supplemented with ammonium salts. So for their growth, they require carbon source as well as the nitrogen source. In the World War II, Second World War, the aerobic yeast were produced for food and feed in Germany. So like this, the microbes, the single-celled microorganisms were consumed as they were rich in the protein. Therefore, in the light of protein shortage, since they are rich in protein, in the light of protein shortage, microorganisms offer many possibilities for protein production. They can be used to replace totally or partially the valuable amount of conventional vegetable and animal protein feed. For this, development of technologies to utilize the waste products would play a major role in the production of SCP. Next, we'll learn the advantages of producing microbial protein. The scientist the scientist Roth in 1982 has described many advantages in the production of microbial protein compared to protein problems of conventional crops used as food and feed. So these advantages include the rapid succession of generation. So the algae, it has 2 to 4 hours. Yeast, it has 1 to 3 hours. Bacteria has the generation time of zero point 0.5 to 2 hours. And these microorganisms can be easily modifiable. So you can genetically manipulate them for the production of particular amino acid. And high protein content of 43 to 85% in the dry mass. So in 100 gram of these microorganism biomass, you will find the 43 to 85% of the protein. And the broad spectrum of original raw material used for the production. So usually which includes waste products, which includes waste products. Production in continuous cultures with the consistent quality not dependent on the climate in the uh, particular area. So it requires very less land for the growth of these microorganisms, and in addition to that they are ecologically very beneficial. In addition to these advantages, there are also other advantages like they have the high solar energy conversion efficiency per unit area. So the microorganism, if you take yeast, it has the 1 to 3 hour generation time. And if you take the algae, which is having the generation time of 2 to 6 hours. If you culture the algae, it has the high solar energy conversion efficiency as they are autotrophic, they have this specific pigment. The another advantage is easy regulation of the environmental factors like physical factors, temperature or aeration, uh, pH, etc. And even nutritional, the factors could be regulated very easily, which maximize the solar energy conversion efficiency. And in addition to that, the yield of the biomass will be increased. The cellular, molecular, and genetic alterations are very easy in these microorganisms because of the rapid succession of generations. Algal culture in space, which is normally unused instead of competing for land. They require very land for the cultivation. In addition to that, the algal culture in this space, which is very normally unused instead of competing for land. Next is which microorganism will be used as single cell protein. Algae, in algae, we can consume chlorella pyrenoidosa, and then Cnidesmus acutus, and another algae that is Spirulina maxima. And you can also consume the microorganism like Aspergillus niger, Trichoderma viridae, could be consumed as the single cell protein. They are the example for molds. Then in mushrooms, we can consume Agaricus campestris, which is a source of protein in mushroom. So like this, many microorganisms will be used for the source of protein, and they are termed as the single cell protein. It is from the algae, the yeast also, then molds, mushrooms, and even in bacteria, we can consume certain microorganism biomass. For example, Bacillus megaterium could be considered as the single cell protein because it is rich in protein. Next is what all the substance required for the production of single cell protein or SCP. The major components of substrates are the raw materials which contain sugars, starch, lignocellulose from woody plants, and herbs having residues with nitrogen and phosphorus content, and other raw material. They promote the growth of this single cell protein. The availability of necessary substrate is considerable biological and economic importance for the production of the SAP. So the nutrition depletion should not be there for large scale production of SAP. Algae which contain chlorophyll do not require the organic waste. They use free energy from sunlight and carbon dioxide from the air. They can convert this radiation energy into the chemical energy, while bacteria and fungi require organic waste as they do not have the photosynthetic pigment, that is chlorophyll. This SCP will be produced even in the laboratory condition for the high yield and also for the maximum amount of the protein. This SCP, they are having a certain nutritional value that play an important role when we are taking the particular microorganism as the source of protein. Nowadays, considerable information is available on composition of microbial cells, example protein, amino acid, vitamin, minerals, etc. The commercial value of SCP depends on their nutritional performance, and it has to be evaluated to prevalent the uh, food protein. SCPs either from alkanes or methanols are characterized by good protein content and balance in the essential amino acids. The composition of the growth media governs the protein and lipid contents of microorganism. Yeasts, molds, and higher fungi have high cellular lipid content and lower nitrogen content and protein contents. But when grown in the media having high amount of available carbon as energy source and low nitrogen, the mean crude protein in the dry matter of algae and yeast on the normal conventional substrate usually lie between the 50 to 60%, and for yeast between 55 to 65%, and for bacteria about 80%. High content of nucleic acid free protein is extremely important for economic efficiency and the single cell protein production. Because of high protein and fat content, contribution of carbohydrates to the nutritional value of SCP is not of prime importance. The most important measure of nutritional value is the actual performance of the SCP product as determined as determined usually in the feeding studies. It depends on the protein efficiency ratio, biological value, or net protein utilization. So on all this, they decide the nutritional value of the SCP. Next, we will move on to the genetic improvements in the microbial cell. At present, production of SCP by mass culture of the microorganism is in its infancy. They are carrying out this production of SCP in mass culture. It needs much boost to solve the problem of starvation in the coming decades. One of the ways to enhance the productivity and quality of SCP product is the genetic improvement of the microorganism by recombinant DNA technology. At Sosa, Texcoco, Mexico, genetically engineered cells which can grow in alkaline environment up to 8 to 10 pH and under artificial conditions as well. Ciferi developed the mutants of uh, Spirulina platensis, which had about 40 times more longer pools of certain amino acids than found in wild alga. Similarly, Rochiax and Van Diller-Wigger have successfully introduced genes of Saccharomyces cerevisiae into Chlamydomonas reinhardi cells, and they have expressed the fungal genes in the algal cells. So by recombinant DNA technology like this, we can pool the genes and you can increase the production of the specific or the pool of amino acids. Next, we'll move on to the production of the algal mass. Algae include cyanobacteria and unicellular eukaryotes. They grow autotropically and synthesize their own food by taking energy from sunlight or even sometimes artificial light in presence of carbon source, that is carbon dioxide, and nutrients from carbohydrates present in the growth medium. In few countries, cultivation of algae is carried out in large trenches, that is, particularly in sewage oxidation ponds by using sunlight or in artificial illumination conditions. For use in life supportive systems or extended space exploration. Chlorella strains are being used for variety of applications in biotechnology due to their high protein contents. They improve the protein deficiency and can be used as feed for the production of animal proteins. In many countries, these strains of chlorella are used for utilized in the sewage oxidation and wastewater treatment. For cultivation of algae on sewage wastes, oxidation ponds are prepared where sewage is allowed to accumulate. Where sewage is allowed to accumulate, it is awaited till mixed cultures of algae grow. For example, Japan mixed the culture of Chlorella ellipsoides and Cynidesmus obligus was developed in open pond system. So they will collect this sewage water and they grow this microorganism. Before moving on to the production of algal biomass in detail, first we should know what are the factors which will affect the biomass production. It will be the yield of the biomass is affected by illumination time, light intensity, light intensity, then supply of carbon dioxide, illumination of light into illumination time, how long the culture will be exposed to the light, and then light intensity. It should not be too scorchy. So if it is the sunlight is too high, then the production or the yield of the biomass decreases. So light sunlight is required for the maximum production of this algal mass. The supply of carbon dioxide, concentration of carbon dioxide differ in different condition. For example, alkaline lake. For example, Lake Texcoco in Mexico has high concentration of sodium carbonate. On the other hand, the algal growth is limited as a result of liberation of carbon dioxide and ammonia by bacterial activity. So it will vary from one environment or one mm, where you are culturing the algae, it will be varying. Nitrogen sources. ammonium salts or nitrates are the suitable nitrogen sources which increase the biomass yield. Agitation of the growing cells to maintain the cell suspension is very important, otherwise it results in the heterogeneous growth of the microorganism. For example, in case of spirulina maxima and Cinedesmus grown in outdoor pond condition, the biomass yield will range from 12 to 15 gram per meter square per day. So they'll get around 12 to 15 gram per meter square of the space per day will be obtained if we grow this microorganism in outdoor pond condition. This mass cultivation of the algae has been started in many countries such as Japan, Germany, Mexico, India, etc. In India, NEERI, National Environmental Engineering Research Institute, and Nagpur has developed a technique of culturing the algae in sewage oxidation ponds. This practice is in use at Lucknow, that is NBRI, Hyderabad, and other centers. Interestingly, experiments conducted at CFTRI Mysore have shown that the microalgae, that is Cinedesmus acutus and Spirulina platensis, could be cultivated on large scale and used as food and feed, as they are rich in protein and their nutrient level is comparable to the conventional foods. So this is the diagram where it shows how the different groups of microorganism or the algae will be used in wastewater, in oxidation of the wastewater and in the production of the microbial biomass. Here the sewage water will be allowed to stand in the big trenches, and it will the sedimenting material, everything will be removed by primary treatment, and they'll inoculate here in the first tank. So series of tanks will be placed or constructed one after the other, and the sewage water will be allowed to pass through these tanks. In the first tank, they will grow the green algae, and in the second tank, the green algae will be grown along with the blue-green algae. And then in the third tank, blue-green algae will be grown. So in the rest of the tanks, blue-green algae will be grown. So initially green algae will be grown, and here the oxidation of the sewage water takes place, and as they are autotrophic, they oxidize and they releases the oxygen. So in the presence of sunlight, they utilize the radiation energy and convert that into the chemical energy. And like this, in combination with the blue-green algae, the sewage water will be completely, its toxicity will be the lower, and that water could be used in the agriculture, in irrigation. And this tanks which are having these the green algae or the blue green algae will be the collected, culture will be collected, and they will be separated out, they'll be separated out by using the long mesh. And this algal mat will be recovered to form the algal biomass, and this could be used as the fertilizers in the agriculture, and this could be used as the SCP single cell protein. And in addition, this algal biomass will be used to feed the fishes also. It is used in aquaculture also. So after separating the algal mass, the water will be nutrient, whatever is remaining will be recycled back, and it will be made to pass through the same number of trenches or the big tanks, and it will be inoculated with the green algae in combination with the blue green algae in the rest of the trenches. And like this, it will be repeated to the detoxify the sewage water, and at the same time the protein will be isolated from this algal mass and will be used as the source of proteins. So this algal culture, the isolation will be very problematic because of settling down of cells at the bottom. The mixing of the algal culture, when we do it, we mix the green algae with the blue-green algae. Cells are recovered by concentration, dewatering or drying the tanks, big tanks. Sometimes flocculants, example aluminum sulfate and calcium hydroxide and cationic polymers are added to the medium, but they cannot be separated from the harvested cells. Therefore, this method uh, will limit the use of application of SEP products in food and the feed. So the methods of separation and concentration also follow the centrifugation, flocculation, and sometimes centrifugation will be used in combination with the flocculation, but it is not economically feasible so far. So when we are using the green algae, we will face all this problem. Harvesting the cyanobacteria, for example, spirulina species, will be less troublesome as their filaments float on the surface of the water because of the gas-filled vacuoles in their cells, which result in the floating algal mats. So the separation will be very easy. Cells are able to fix atmospheric nitrogen. Algal mats are filtered and the suspension of spirulina is dried with hot air or in the presence of sunlight it is sun dried to get fine powder. The algal yield from the pond is around 114 tons per hectare per year. 114 tons per hectare per year. In California, they are producing 70 tons per hectare per year by culturing the Cynidesmus in sewage water. Bangkok is getting highest yield of about 170 tons per hectare per year by culturing these microorganisms. The single cell protein from the spirulina will be consumed in the form of biscuits with the name Tecutalt. It contained the dried mass of Spirulina maxima. The biscuit was sold in the markets of Mexico, and other bakery products will be prepared by using this Spirulina culture. So the main reason for selecting this Spirulina food product is it's a being a filamentous alga. Spirulina can be harvested by simple and less expensive method, such as nylon mesh or the cotton cloth filter will be used. The filaments of spirulina floats on water surface due to the presence of gas vacuole. Hence, there is no problem of harvesting and sun drying in case of spirulina compared to chlorella and Cynidesmus. And there is least chance of contamination if you grow this spirulina culture. If you grow this spirulina culture, because this spirulina is a microorganism, it's a self pH elevating microorganism. When it grows here in the pond, it will increase the pH to 8 to 11. So at that pH, it will inhibit most of the microorganism growth in the ponds or the trenches. Heat drying is sufficient for spirulina as it has a very thin cell wall, whereas spray drying is required for chlorella and Cynidesmus. So if you compare the expenses of spirulina and the chlorella and Cynidesmus, the drying will be more expensive when you culture chlorella and Cynidesmus. Spirulina is highly digestive. It's about 85 to 95% of the spirulina will be digested due to thin wall and low nucleic acid content. So if you take the percentage of nucleic acid content in the spirulina, it's only 4%. It contains high percentage of digestible proteins, up to 72% of digestible proteins are present in this spirulina, and it has vitamins, amino acids, and other nutrients. Ami- Spirulina is comparable to the milk and egg protein pattern. So this spirulina is easy to culture, to isolate, and it is having um the more advantages when compared to other microorganism as SCP. If you want to culture the spirulina, if you want to culture the spirulina culture can be done in two methods. One is semi-natural lake system. The another one is artificially built cultivation system. In semi-natural lake system, it's an ideal environment for natural growth of spirulina. The product is expensive but of low quality due to contamination and pollution by uncontrolled natural factors, as it is grown in the semi-natural condition. SCP of these lakes are good for fish and animal feed. It's not recommended for human consumption. Artificially built cultivation system, when you grow the spirulina, the climatic conditions of most of the developing countries are such that that favors the mass outdoor production of spirulina. Therefore, on the basis of the water quality and the nutrient status, this artificially built cultivation system will be followed. So this artificially built cultivation system involves, one is clean water system and another one is wastewater system. In clean water system, it's more expensive because of the construction of artificial cultivation farms or the cultivation tanks. These have shallow ponds circulated with paddles, wheels in order to give the agitation and high quality of nutrients. For the fast growth of spirulina in clear water, NaNO3 and NaHCO3 is necessary, and the pH of the water must be initially maintained at around 8, so 8 to 8.5, since it is a self pH elevating alga which elevates the pH when it grows inside the water between the 10 to 10.5. At this pH levels there is the least chance of contamination. In India, food grade spirulina is cultivated at two main centers, one at MCRC Madras and the another one at our CFTRI Mysore. Madras Center is the biggest food grade spirulina farm in India. Its annual production capacity is about 75 tons. The products are marketed in India and also in abroad countries as health food and baby food and other multivitamin tablets. So in this form, this will be consumed. So coming to the wastewater system of culturing of the spirulina, this system is applicable in uh, highly populated countries like India, where wastes are generated in high quantities and pose many environmental problems. In this system, human and animal wastes and sewage are used for the growth of this spirulina and are added into the digester to settle down to remove the solid particles. The liquid effluent is used as source of nutrient added in artificially constructed pond. The desired NaNO3, which is the source of nitrogen, and NaHCO3, that is the source of carbon dioxide, are also mixed. Spirulina platensis is found to grow better in sewage amended with sodium carbonate and nutrients in different proportions, and also in diluted sewage. When full growth of spirulina is over, it is screened from the pond and added to aquaculture to feed fish or dried in small solar dryer for human food. So this is how the spirulina will be cultured. One is semi-natural system of cultivation. The another one is the clean water system in artificially built cultivation system. In artificially built cultivation system, we can use clean water or water for the growth of the spirulina, and you can produce the large scale of the spirulina. When you grow the spirulina, so what all you require? You require the algal tanks. So usually circular or rectangular cemented tanks are constructed. Tanks are constructed. Usually circular tanks are more preferred over the rectangular tanks because of ease of it's very easy to handle these tanks. Size may be according to the convenience and the yield which you want to produce. The depth should be around 25 centimeter. Open tanks are suitable for tropical and subtropical region, and it requires very light intensity, as I told earlier at the beginning, to avoid photolysis. Spirulina is exposed to high light intensity will be lysed. So very low light intensity is required. Temperature usually will be around 35 to 40 degrees centigrade is enough. But pH, if you consider when you're inoculating the spirulina into the water, the pH should be around 8 to 8.5. But later it will be increased to 10 or 11 also. So that will tell us the spirulina is growing in the culture or not. If the pH is increased, spirulina is growing. In all this, agitation is very important for the homogeneous production of the spirulina. So the agitator will be in the form of brush paddle, which will rotate and mix the media. The harvesting will be done as it is very easy compared to chlorella. It floats on the surface. It can be harvested by nylon mesh or the cotton cloths or steel screens. After it is harvested, it will be dried, sun dried, and sun dried the spirulina is most suitable and economical. And if you consider the yield, it will be around 8 to 12 grams spirulina powder per meter square of the area per day has been obtained in India and other countries. It is equivalent to 20 tons per hectare per annum. And the cultivation of the spirulina will be completely free of contamination as it elevates the pH to 11. So this is how the spirulina will be cultured. You need the bigger tanks, and they should receive the low light intensity, and you have to maintain the temperature and the pH along with the sodium nitrate and sodium bicarbonate. So you can go for the mass scale production of the spirulina. Next, we will move on to the uses of spirulina as single cell protein. It is used as protein supplemented food as it is a rich source of protein, about 72%. Along with that, it has vitamins, amino acids, minerals, fibers, etc. It is used as a supplemented food in diets of undernourished poor children in developing countries. At MCRC, the products are distributed to the local undernourished children. It has been found that 1 gram of spirulina tablets contain as much nutrition as 1 kg of sorted vegetable. 1 gram spirulina is equal to 1 kg of sorted vegetables. Then this SCP spirulina will be used as health food. Is very popular as health food. Most of the products are exported to the, that is Sosa Texcoca products are exported to USA, where it is sold in health and food stores. It is the part of the diet. Jaggers will consume the spirulina tablets for instant energy since it provides all the essential nutrients without excess calories and fats. It is taken by those who want to control obesity. The third one is it is used in therapeutic and natural medicines. Spirulina possesses many medicinal properties. Therefore, it is used as social and preventive medicine also. It has been recommended by medicinal experts for reducing body weight, obesity, and also in cholesterol and premenstrual stress. will be relieved if you consume this spirulina. And also for better health, this spirulina will be consumed. Apart from this, this spirulina is used in cosmetics. It contains high quality of proteins and vitamin A and B. These play a key role in maintaining healthy hair. Many herbal cosmeticians are making efforts to develop variety of the beauty products derived from this spirulina. Phycocyanin pigment has helped in formulating bio lipsticks and herbal face cream in Japan. So these products can replace the present dye-based cosmetics, which are otherwise carcinogenic. So in this session, we learned about the SCP, which microorganism will be consumed as the source of protein and other essential nutrients, and why we are concentrating on these microorganisms. And in addition, we concentrated on the spirulina culture, advantages, and how we culture this spirulina, and the requirement of the spirulina culture. And in addition to that, we also concentrated on the uses of spirulina as the single cell protein. I hope you understood this session. Thank you.